Questionable use of force violation in Fort Worth, Texas. Happened in June of 24. I put in a records request. Let's take a look at the incident and I'll tell you where I am with my request. Let's go take a look.
Fort Worth police just released new video after an officer was accused of using excessive force. A woman was recording officers at a crime scene when she was arrested and knocked unconscious. It happened Sunday near the West 7th Entertainment District, and Adriana de Alba just got new reaction to the video.
From her live-streamed YouTube video, we saw and heard the moment citizen journalist Carolyn Rodriguez was arrested and hit the ground.
Okay, stop resisting.
The 60-year-old Fort Worth woman could be heard snoring. And today,
Caroline, we're busy. Go to the other side of the street.
Fort Worth PD released body cam video of the Sunday incident.
There's no investigation, there's no nothing.
Police say she approached officers during their investigation in the West 7th area.
Go to the other side of the street, we're going to get arrested.
An officer asked her to move across the street.
Right now.
Wait, tell me why first.
Seconds later,
Stop resisting.
Walker hits the ground.
She's bleeding.
Street camera video shows the officer grab her arms one at a time before slinging her to the ground.
Go to the other side of the street.
Ben Westbrook is Rodriguez's new attorney in a civil lawsuit she plans to file,
It's hard to watch.
especially because this is what she looks like now.
And how's your client doing today?
She's in a lot of pain. She's hurting worse today than she was the day before.
She suffered a possibly dislocated shoulder, elbow, and needed face stitches. Westbrook says he believes the officer escalated the incident and used excessive force.
There shouldn't be an escalation to the point where someone is suffering, life-altering injuries.
He says his client did not pose a threat, especially since the area under investigation did not have crime scene tape. Her YouTube page shows she's had run-ins with police before. Just last week, Tarrant County settled a lawsuit with her for a 2022 incident in which she argued a sheriff's deputy assaulted her by swatting away her camera.
Stop resisting.
Rodriguez faces several charges, including resisting and evading arrest.
She was pretty much knocked unconscious.
Councilmember Chris Nettles first called for the body cam video's release.
Be handcuffed and slung to the ground. It's not a police policy that is practiced in the city of Fort Worth, and we cannot tolerate that type of behavior.
Fort Worth police investigating the incident and use of force, saying the department will ensure the investigation is thorough and impartial. City leaders plan to have a closed-door executive session on the issue this Friday. In Fort Worth, I'm Adriana de Alba.
Okay. Let's take a look at some of the footage again, just real quick. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. I know some of it's a little hard to watch. And I want to talk to you kind of why this drew my attention at the time. The first thing we're going to look at is this is the scene as Caroline is walking up. And I see her name Carolyn listed here. I know her as Caroline. She has a channel called Caroline in Fort Worth. And the bars are all long closed. The police were sticking around. They investigated a hit and run. And Caroline sees them and walks up toward them with her camera running. Now, Caroline is a First Amendment auditor. Some of you may know what that is. They're folks that test the First Amendment and make sure that government officials are abiding and kind of staying in their lane when it comes to citizens' rights, right? So that's kind of interesting to me. Some First Amendment auditors are amazing activists. Some are trolls. And some people love that, right? But regardless, you have a right to be on the street. As long as it's a place where the public is allowed to be, you have a right to film your government employees. They think, a lot of people consider citizens as part of the checks and balances of government, right? It's kind of like the health department. If you've ever worked fast food, I have worked fast food. When the health department comes in, you hate those guys. But as a patron of the establishment, you might really be happy that the health department makes regular visits and checks up on them. So I noticed a couple of things. There's nothing going on here. You see the caption here. We're busy. Go to the other side of the street. Now, this officer that's saying that, he just got out of his car. So he was sitting in his car. This officer standing around. There's another officer on the other side here, and they're kind of chit-chatting. Let's move this forward just so that we can kind of go through it.
We're busy. Go to the other side of the street.
Fort Worth PD released body cam video of the Sunday incident.
There's no investigation, there's no nothing.
Police say she
Let's watch it. One grabs one arm, the other grabs another, and then she is thrown to the ground with an inability to protect herself. Did you notice that when they're putting the cuffs on her and she's actually snoring, she's knocked out, they're yelling, "Stop resisting, stop resisting"? That drives me nuts. That drives me nuts. That drives me absolutely nuts. They're trained to do that. They're trained to do that. It creates an alibi for using force. That in of itself really rubbed me the wrong way. That prompted a records request. And I'm going to show you the original request here first. So I put in this request in August of 2024. Okay. And I'll show you the actual request. I said, regarding Fort Worth police officer Kruger, badge 4454, please provide the following: number of low-level uses of force from start date to present, number of intermediate or above uses of force by year from start date to present. And then I wanted the number of uses of force deemed to be excessive by year from start date to present. That's a pretty simple request. Then I went on to a variety of other things in my life, in a variety of other investigations in other areas around the country. Recently I came back to it and looked up my case, and it's marked completed. But I have no records. They have given me nothing. So I said, hey, I've been waiting for these records forever. Let me know the status of the request. It shows a completed status, but I see no response of records. And they respond several days later that they were withheld per a ruling from the Attorney General. Well, that's news to me. And that certainly is something that they're required to tell me when it happens, right? Because I might want to appeal. And so this was my response to that. Guys, I was never notified of the ruling's outcome. I was never provided the ruling number, and I was never given any explanation for the withholding of the records. Only after I came back 10 months later, I was told that the records had been withheld. It's vague. That response is vague. It's not compliant with the law, and it's inconsistent with your obligations under the Texas Public Information Act. If you're ever doing a records request, go and research that state's record request laws, their public information request laws, their sunshine laws. So they're supposed to be pretty easy to find, and generally speaking, they are. I said, pursuant to Texas Government Code, and I listed here, you're required to promptly notify me of the ruling and explain the legal justification for withholding the records. The ruling letter or an explanation citing the applicable exemptions should have been provided. So now guys, this is what I'm requesting today. I want the AG ruling number. I want a copy of the ruling letter. I want a list of the exemptions cited in support of withholding the records. And I want a written explanation for why I was never notified of the ruling or given the legal reasoning, despite the request being marked as completed. That's crazy. And if it's not provided promptly, so here's the threat, and it's not a vague threat. This is what I'm going to do. If you don't give this to me, I'm going to consider filing a formal complaint with the ORD of the Texas Attorney General and explore other legal options, right? They are really wrong. They're really, really wrong. They made a mistake by not notifying me and allowing me to have a conversation with them about it. They responded, I'll reach out to our legal department regarding a copy of the ruling being provided to you. Okay, so I thought this would be the point where this video came to a conclusion, and we would together wait and see what the response was from their legal department. But they emailed me tonight, and they sent me the ruling from the State Attorney General's office that they applied to my case, and we're gonna take a look at that right now. So this is from the Attorney General of the state of Texas, and this is dated September 19th, 2024. This is when I should have been notified, by the way. And they sent it to the Assistant City Attorney, Miss Keenan Hall at the City of Fort Worth. Dear Miss Hall, you ask whether certain information is subject to a required public disclosure under the Public Information Act, and countless legal citations there. It goes on to talk about the fact that there were 9 requesters. Presumably I'm one of them, and the city claims that these requests should be exempted. They should not be able to give them to us for a variety of reasons that are special to this case, and so they don't want to release the video, certain video, and they don't want to release certain identifying information. They think that all of this information is either a violation of privacy or something that would get in the way of the investigation itself that they're having, or the litigation that might be pending. The Assistant Attorney General, by the way, highlighted a couple of things for me. TCOL identification numbers do not constitute public information. Well, I'm not requesting TCOL numbers. And finally, they say that any information held by law enforcement or a prosecutor that deals with detection, investigation, or prosecution of a crime, if release of the information would interfere with any of that, they can do that. They can withhold it. And then again, the attorney highlights the following yellow sections for my benefit. Based on these representations and our review, we conclude the release of the remaining information would interfere with the detection, investigation, or prosecution of crime. And thus we conclude the section of government code is applicable to the remaining information. Thus, with the exception of the basic information which must be released, the city may withhold the remaining information under section 552.108A1 of the government code. In summary, the TCOL identification numbers are not subject to the act and need not be released. With the exception of basic information which must be released, the city may withhold the remaining information under this section. There's just nothing in this document that has anything to do with my request. They made a presumption and they put me in a big basket of requests regarding a certain officer, and they handled the situation in bulk. So we need to get that rectified. And I will continue to take you on the ride with me here. I already have a response, which I need to go over a couple of times with a fine-tooth comb before I send it, and I certainly will share that with you next time. And if they respond to that, we'll have something to talk about. And we're also going to talk about what ended up happening to the officer and what ended up happening to Caroline. So stick around and we'll learn more about that in the upcoming few days, and we'll talk about it. So until then, we'll see ya.